private land.
My wife is heavily pregnant.
What a blessing to have you here.
Get away!
The film begins with Rachel, who is expecting a baby, and her husband Matt, on a seemingly peaceful drive. Their journey is interrupted by a road closure, which forces them to take a detour. Matt, briefly distracted, fails to see a fallen tree blocking the road and crashes into it, leaving their car stranded near a thick forest, far from any signs of civilization. Matt tries to call for help, only to discover that he has no cell signal. In need of assistance, the couple spots a farmhouse about half a mile away and decides to walk there, hoping to find a way to get help. As they approach, they see a sign warning that the land is private, but, with few options, they continue onward. Before they reach the farmhouse, a man named Bobby drives up and demands that they leave his property. Matt explains their situation, but Bobby remains firm in his stance, until he learns that Rachel is pregnant and expecting a boy. This revelation changes Bobby's demeanor. He calls his wife Agnes, informing her of the unexpected visitors. Agnes, initially reluctant, becomes much more welcoming upon hearing that Rachel is pregnant with a boy and insists they come to the house. Matt and Rachel clarify they only need to use the phone, but Bobby explains that a recent storm has knocked out their phone lines, leaving them waiting on repairs. With few other options, they accept the invitation, following Bobby up to the house. As they approach, Rachel notices a girl in a black dress watching them from a distance. When they arrive, Agnes and her sons, Luke and David, greet them warmly and take them to a room prepared for them to spend the night. Grateful for the hospitality, the couple is taken aback by the family's kindness, as they had only intended to borrow a phone. That evening, Agnes invites them to dinner. During the meal, Rachel spots a photograph of Bobby, Agnes, and the mysterious girl. Curious, she asks about her. Agnes explains that she is their youngest, Faith, who is not joining them for the meal. She shares that Faith, like Luke and David, was adopted, as she and Bobby could not have children of their own. Agnes expresses her belief that God brought their family together for a higher purpose. Despite the warm setting, Rachel and Matt sense an undercurrent of tension, especially noticing Bobby's barely contained anger toward his sons. Later, in their room, Rachel confides in Matt, saying she feels uneasy about the family, especially Faith's absence and the tense atmosphere. They agree to leave first thing in the morning. However, as they talk, they hear faint noises outside their door, as if someone is eavesdropping. When Matt checks, he finds no one. Exhausted, Rachel and Matt decide to get some rest. The next morning, Rachel wakes up to the sound of quiet crying. She realizes she was only dreaming when she sees Matt beside her, and the girl from the photo, Faith, crying over what appeared to be the bodies of her parents. She quickly connects the girl to Ellie Adams, a child who has been missing and whose family's disappearance has been in the news for months. Rachel grows increasingly suspicious that the family may be involved in Ellie's disappearance and urges Matt to leave immediately. They quietly make their way downstairs, but when they reach the door, they find it locked. As Matt fumbles for a key, Bobby appears behind them, watching silently. Matt tries to keep calm and tells Bobby they'll be leaving, but as they move outside, they are blocked by Luke and David, who are armed. Suddenly, David hits Matt, and Rachel is knocked unconscious by Bobby, leaving them defenseless. Rachel awakens, chained, and in a panic, asks where Matt is. Agnes responds coldly, saying he's in a better place. Outside, Luke and David are seen digging a grave for Matt, who lies unconscious. After stripping him of his clothes, they decide with a smirk to bury him alive. They place him in a makeshift coffin, dropping his cigarettes and lighter inside as a grim token. Rachel, in labor, is attended to by Agnes, but, to everyone's surprise, the baby is a girl instead of a boy. Agnes leaves with the baby, leaving Rachel behind. Desperate, Rachel frees her hands and strikes Agnes with a cross. However, she's overpowered as the family restrains her with cable ties. Agnes then reveals that she killed Faith's parents in the name of God, justifying her acts by claiming she saved her children from an evil culture. Rachel, bound and gagged, is taken to a shed where she is forced to have her breast milk pumped. Meanwhile, Matt regains consciousness and claws his way out of the coffin, emerging naked and disoriented. Back in the hay shed, Rachel continues her desperate attempts to break free from her restraints, but eventually, exhaustion overtakes her, and she falls asleep. When she wakes up, she finds Ellie Adams, the girl she had seen earlier, standing before her, bringing food and water. However, Ellie offers no help and leaves without a word. Meanwhile, Matt, still trying to find help, stumbles upon two men camping in the woods. Desperate, he explains the horrifying ordeal he and Rachel are enduring, begging for assistance. The men, skeptical of his disheveled appearance, dismiss him as a drunk and refuse to help. Forced to fight for his survival, Matt overpowers the men, taking their clothes and offering them a knife to cut themselves free after showing him the way to the highway. Back at the farmhouse, Luke and David join Agnes, who is with her newborn granddaughter. Displeased with the baby's gender, the brothers suggest that one of them impregnate Rachel to try for a boy, believing it to be part of God's plan. Enraged, Agnes chases them out. But the two brothers, feeling emboldened, head to the hayshed to find Rachel. At the same time, Matt, nearing the farmhouse, encounters Ellie, who discreetly offers to help him locate Rachel. When Matt reaches the hayshed, he finds Luke and David attempting to assault Rachel. In a burst of rage, he intervenes, wielding a metal pipe, and kills both brothers. Overwhelmed with relief, Rachel embraces Matt, telling him about the birth of their daughter. Matt breaks her chains with the metal pipe, but Agnes, hearing the commotion, sends Bobby to investigate. Ellie cleverly distracts Agnes, allowing Rachel and Matt to escape the hayshed, only to find Bobby waiting outside with a shotgun. Matt shields Rachel and takes the bullet himself, falling wounded. Bobby strikes Rachel with the rifle, rendering her unconscious. When Rachel comes to, she is tied up once again and is startled to see Ellie chained beside her, also struggling to break free. Together, they loosen the bricks anchoring their chains, freeing themselves from their restraints. Back at the house, Bobby watches Agnes as she mournfully applies makeup to the lifeless faces of Luke and David, believing in her grief that they are merely asleep. Gently, Bobby urges her to let them go, and they bury their sons in a meadow marked with 3 crosses. Meanwhile, Rachel and Ellie make their way back to the farmhouse, where Rachel is joyfully reunited with her newborn daughter. But their moment of peace is brief, as Bobby soon returns. Rachel and Ellie hide in a closet, holding their breath as Bobby enters to check on the baby. Satisfied, he leaves. But upon discovering Rachel's absence in the hayshed, he grabs his gun and hurries back to the house. Rachel confronts Bobby, asking to feed her baby directly rather than using the pump. As Bobby approaches her, she seizes the chance to attack him with a hidden knife, fatally wounding him. Quickly, she grabs his phone and calls the police. Sensing something wrong, Agnes returns and realizes Rachel has escaped. Grabbing a gun, she sets off in a tractor. Rachel and Ellie emerge from the house, taking Bobby's gun, and head for the car. Their hopes are dashed when they discover the keys are missing, and Agnes watches from afar, tracking their every move. Agnes confronts them, gun in hand, forcing Rachel away from the car and leaving Ellie with the baby. A tense standoff ensues, with both women exchanging gunfire, most shots missing their target. Rachel, wounded in her arms and legs, fights desperately to keep Agnes from taking her child. In a final struggle, Rachel gains the upper hand, slamming Agnes's head against the ground until she is incapacitated. With Agnes defeated, Rachel and Ellie rush to escape as police sirens sound, signaling their arrival. Officers and medical personnel come to Rachel's aid, but just as they begin to understand the gravity of the situation, Agnes stumbles out from behind the ambulance, attempting to shoot Rachel one last time. The police react quickly, fatally shooting Agnes. As calm returns, an officer asks Rachel about Ellie Adams, the missing girl. But in that moment, Ellie vanishes. Realization dawns on Rachel. The girl she had seen was not the real Ellie Adams, but her spirit. One of the grave markers belongs to Ellie, whose real name was Faith. As the film concludes, Rachel and her newborn are taken away in an ambulance, leaving behind the horrors they endured, yet carrying the scars of their traumatic experience. End of the movie. Thank you for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. I always love hearing from you, so feel free to leave a comment below with your thoughts or suggestions for future content. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.